It's been 2 decades since Hurricane Katrina made landfall and brought a level of devastation previously unseen in America. On your screen, it's just a fraction of the damage caused by the then Category 3 hurricane at landfall. It was previously a 5. Fox Weather is diving into the lessons New Orleans has learned and use those to prepare for future storms. Let's bring in a familiar face, Fox Weather Correspondent Brandy Campbell, for more on how the city has changed since. Brandy, this place is home for you.
And it does. I am from New Orleans, and this is a city that's now had 20 years to learn after Hurricane Katrina and basically reinvent what they've done to do better for future storms. So I would say really in this story, we focus on how the city has changed their plans to respond and also prepare for storms going forward. Let's take a look.
It's an extremely desperate situation. We had to learn some very painful lessons from Hurricane Katrina.
On August 29, 2005, Katrina struck, a fierce Category 3 hurricane. About 20% of residents stayed behind, facing the storm head-on.
But I wasn't gonna go. I should have went.
Catastrophic levee failures allowed water to rush in, threatening residents like Clarence White.
Frightening thing was watching that water just rise and just kept rising, until we made a decision, said we got to get out of here.
Nearly 1,400 died along Katrina's path. White recalls vivid memories after his escape to the Superdome.
And I have witnessed dead bodies just floating down this street right here. I have a good memory of it. And we just stood outside the dome, just the area we were in.
The storm wasn't the only disaster. The response was its own.
20 years ago, one of the biggest problems was communication and coordination.
The people that worked in this city and that were in this government and in this public safety network were heroes, but they didn't have what they needed to get the job done. And that was not just from the local level, but that was from the state and federal level as well. What's been done over 20 years is correcting that and making sure that we have those partnerships with our state and federal partners, and that we know that when we're on our back and we're down and out because of a storm, that we have the backup and the cavalry coming in to help us.
Over the years, storm plans continue to evolve.
I remember in 2005, texting was new.
Now residents can get emergency text alerts from the city, and there's a plan to evacuate the most vulnerable.
As local, state, and federal partnership, it involves motor coach buses, airplanes, and even Amtrak trains, moving people out of the city.
And if there's no time,
where if we have to, we can shelter, refuge, the most vulnerable in our population. I'm considering that to be seniors. I'm considering that to be people with pre-existing medical conditions and mobility issues.
And I know you mentioned that's for the vulnerable communities. What about low-income families?
We're going to try and do it for everybody, but we do have a focus.
While the Superdome was a refuge of last resort in '05,
it's not a suitable facility. It wasn't then, and it's not now.
They're now considering other city buildings.
We've got about 70,000 square feet of critical supply storage for public safety agencies, which includes medical supplies, cots, rescue equipment, and a lot more. And we're just getting started there.
Contraflow is still an option, flipping certain interstate lanes outbound.
There are no cars coming that way.
It was first used during Katrina, but are leaders still banking on it?
Unfortunately, the storms are coming faster, and we don't have an opportunity to rely on contraflow.
72 hours is needed to activate it, only after the New Orleans Metro calls for mandatory evacuations with a Category 3 storm threat.
So if you look at the timeline that we have to implement contraflow, which is extremely difficult, right? We need all roads still going in. We need more gas. We need more supplies. We need more people coming in before we can flip all the roads going out.
While getting out is key, so is keeping water out. Now, part of moving forward is remembering the past and learning from it. I'm standing inside of the Flooded House Museum. This is a frozen moment in time of what many New Orleanians came home to after the levees failed in 2005. You can see just pieces of what made up this home. This was a reality. In fact, this very home flooded as well. During Katrina and in its aftermath, over 50 levee breaches caused flooding in 80% of the city, including here in the lower Ninth Ward.
The levees weren't designed to handle the storm surge that we had here.
Since then, a $14.6 billion upgrade was made in the flood defense system. It added floodgates, a 1.8-mile-long storm surge barrier, and better flood walls.
T-wall. This is a T-wall. What you can see is the stem of the T and the top of the T in the dirt. Now, beneath that piece of concrete down there are piling and sheet piling so that if water would come up to it, it's strong enough with enough safety factor to not just fall the heck over.
Do you think this would survive another Katrina?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I think the city prepared. I really do. I know I'm prepared.
So as you can see, infrastructure has been improved since Katrina 20 years ago, and so has the plans on behalf of the city's side. But obviously only a storm can actually test what is in place. But I can speak from a New Orleans native, that is the last thing you want. Ian, I remember just growing up, once we did move back to the area after Katrina, just each year, just hoping and praying that we would not see a storm like that.
Brandy, I wanted to ask you more about that. We've seen it so many times in your reporting on Fox Weather. Super Bowl coverage, snow coverage this past winter. You were sledding down the levees. Your love for that city and the joy in your coverage as a result, it's obvious. It always has been. There was no joy there for a long time. You and everybody in that region went through some serious trauma from Katrina. What was that like?
Well, I mean, just to paint the picture, Hurricane Katrina came at the beginning of the school year. I went to a new school because we just moved into a new house earlier that year, and I think we went for maybe 2 weeks, and I was basically pushed into Texas. That's where we ultimately went, and we stayed in a hotel for, I think, 2 months, and ended up in 3 schools in 7th grade. So, I mean, one, that's just crazy on its own to think, you know, it displaced us 3 schools in 1 year. But also, it just kind of showed me the humanity of people, how nice people were to us once we got to Texas. My dad, you know, he reminded me today that people would see us and just literally give us cash money to help us out, or we had an extended family friend pay for our hotel, because who can afford to stay in a hotel for 2 months, you know? It was, I'd say, a very impactful storm that definitely derailed the lives for so many people, either for the better or worse.
Yeah, and Brandy, before we let you go, kind of a butterfly effect aspect of this, it's part of the reason why you ended up getting into journalism.
Yeah, I would like to think so. When I was in school in Texas for the 2 or 3 years that we were out there, I took a journalism class and public speaking class as an elective, and when I moved back to Louisiana, we were in Slidell. When we moved back, I stuck with it, and here I am. And now I'm able to cover weather and look back on Hurricane Katrina. It's kind of a very unique full circle moment.
Yeah, there's very little good in this, but we're most certainly glad that you got that experience, you stuck with it, and we get to enjoy your reporting. And as I said, it's so obvious the love you have for that region. We appreciate you reflecting on that. That's our Brandy Campbell with The Insight. Thank you.